What else is there to do in a hospital besides playing games? The protagonist of this story, like Kansu, didn't know the answer to that question either, so he just kept zoning out in front of his console. Games were a huge part of his life. He spent all his free time on them. But sooner or later, when you give your all to just one thing, it starts to bore you. That's exactly what happened. Games stopped bringing him joy. No matter what he played, no matter the genre, RPG, shooter, whatever, every new game felt like total crap. Dumb developers just copied each other's plots and settings and slapped on more monetization. No depth, no detail, nothing. If there was anything even remotely unique, it was what? A negative review on a forum about some obscure indie game called Dungeon and Stone. Pixel 2D graphics, no localization, things that usually turned people off. But hey, it was free, so why not give it a try? Quite a few classes too. It probably wouldn't be that engaging, and he was too lazy to learn the mechanics. So he picked the first random class Barbarian. Oh, a buff bonus on top. Wait, games like this still come out? What trash. But then, after a few hours, the graphics weren't that bad. And just like that, bam, it was already late evening. Yeah, it's addictive. And yeah, the game turned out to be both awesome and totally awful in many ways. First, the NPC was necessary for game progression, no way around it. Second, you only got one life. If you died, that was it. Start all over from scratch. At first, it was just fun, hardcore, all that stuff. But over time, each death and failure drove Hansu nuts, making him lash out in front of the medical staff. And the game was only in English. No guides at all, but that didn't matter anymore. Beating the game had become a matter of gamer honor. He played non-stop, during side gigs, at university, and after graduating, when he got a job on the way to work. Whenever he had a free moment, pushing through countless deaths. Then, 9 years later, he finally reached the final boss room. What a rush. He was 100% sure he was the first in the world to get there. Those 9 years hadn't been wasted. Of course he wanted to enter the room. What kind of question is that? You will never be able to return. Sounds ominous. Is it because it's the final boss? Whatever. If you die, you can't return anyway. Continue? Obviously. He hadn't spent years of his life just to turn back now. He wondered what kind of boss it would be, what attacks it would use. He had to gather as much intel as possible. You have reached the abyss. Oh, it's loading. Tutorial? Wait. Why are there Korean characters here? He had spent all that time learning English gaming terms, and now it turns out it was Korean all along. At that moment, the protagonist didn't yet realize just how much the next few seconds would change his life. A blinding beam of light shot across the dim hospital room, and struck his body, unleashing unbearable pain. It felt like he was being burned alive. Transfer initiated. Congratulations, warrior. Today you leave this place. Who's shouting? What? What's happening? Torches all around. Barbarians. Some guy was giving a speech in a weird language, but the most surprising thing was that the guy could understand him, and his body, something was definitely different. Who even is this? The protagonist didn't look like this before. Wait, hold on. All this felt oddly familiar. Young men stepped forward when they heard their names and chose weapons, after which they were accepted as warriors, and may Revdonia be with them. It all looked so familiar. No wonder, he'd seen this scene countless times. It was the beginning of Dungeon and Stone, starting as a barbarian. The very barbarian he had just been playing. How the hell did this happen? It couldn't be. This was Dungeon and Stone. What the underscore. How did I get here? What a twist. And this guy's behavior wasn't exactly barbarian-like. So the protagonist wasn't the only one who ended up inside the game. This guy too, who opened their damn mouth. Oh crap, when did he get so close? No, not me. Then it was you. You spoke of Dungeon and Stone, underscore. No, quiet. Calm down. If I show emotion, I'm dead. Stay silent. Orm, son of Kadua, has been possessed by an evil spirit. Forget everything that demon said. Let's continue the initiation ceremony. But even as the ceremony went on, Lee Kansu kept thinking, looks like people like him are called evil spirits in this world, and they get killed. So if he doesn't want to end up like that, he has to stay hidden. But how to find out his name? They were calling people one, by name. Easy way to get exposed. Damn game, it could have at least told him the character's name. Alright. Chances of survival were slim. But here's the plan. Wait. 2 seconds after a name is called, if no one steps forward, that name must be his. Bjorn, son of Yandel. 1, 2. 2 seconds passed, and no one moved. Time to act. That must be his name, probably. So did it work? Yep. The leader gave a wide smile and loudly called him to choose his weapon. Maybe the plan did work. Bjorn, son of Yondel. So that's his name now. And now, an important choice awaits him. Barbarian, a class without magic, but in exchange, endowed with high physical strength and endurance. The first time, Lee picked a massive broadsword, because it looked cool. But back then, the hero died almost instantly. After that, he tried different weapons, axes, hammers, chains, but all of them were suited for berserker builds, hard to survive with those. Then an unusual idea struck him, a shield. Why not try using one? He didn't have to play the barbarian the usual way. Forget damage, this class's physical strength could make it work as a tank. He wouldn't be as good as a dwarf class of course, but the basics were there. The result? Mind-blowing. He cleared the room without breaking a sweat, straight up OP. So this time, Hansu chose a shield again, synchronization complete. Stats were average, nothing fancy, just level 1. But he knew what came next. All barbarians who passed the ceremony were sent straight into the labyrinth, an entrance located in the city of Ravdonia. The chieftain, now at the front, finally gave the signal. Let the warriors show their worth, fate itself awaits them here. No need to ask twice. As soon as they heard their chief, the barbarians rushed forward, and Bjorn followed, just to blend in. But did they even know the way? Nope. Karikson Vanon failed to guide them. Then from the crowd, a young girl stepped forward. She said she could find the path. Her name was Einar, second daughter of Finalina. She was wise. Surely she'd manage. But even wise Einar turned out not so wise. They got lost again. Bjorn watched all this, and realized they'd never make it to the labyrinth like this. But he didn't want to draw attention. Still, he decided to speak to Einar, who at this point looked totally defeated from all the blame. He told her he did know how to get there. Just follow that group of adventurers. Surely they knew the path. She liked the idea, and returned to the others, eager to redeem herself. And sure enough, they finally reached the portal. The barbarians were thrilled. They'd finally made it to the labyrinth. But the protagonist didn't share their joy. Damn it, this really was the labyrinth. Was going in the right call? Maybe he should run? No one would notice. He was just a normal guy, who'd spent half his life in hospitals. Could he really beat a monster in this place? Was there no other way to pay the tax? Yeah. Taxes were another nasty mechanic of Dungeon and Stone. Every resident of Ravdonia, over 20 had to pay a tax, or lose their head. To pay, you needed income. And there were only a few ways to make money in this world. 1. Explore the labyrinth, and fight monsters. 2. 3. Get a normal job, like at a tavern. 4. But the problem? The protagonist was a barbarian. Clumsy savages, like them, weren't exactly welcome in the workforce. And worst of all, the labyrinth opened only once a month. There wouldn't be another chance to earn. No money meant no food, no tax payment. So really, going in was the only option. Except this wasn't a game. This was reality. And Hansu was just scared of dying. Just then, Einar placed a hand on his shoulder. Everyone had already gone in. Just the two of them left. 5 minutes until the portal closed. She should go first. He'd follow right behind. She agreed without question. But just before stepping into the portal, she thanked him. Einar and the other barbarians made it here, thanks to Bjorn's brains. She wondered how could she become as smart as him. The guy thought about saying, "You'd have to reincarnate," but he kept that to himself, and said something simpler, "Just think before you act." Whoa, genius. She'd totally take that advice. And if she survived, she'd definitely repay his kindness. If she survived, the barbarians here, just like in the game, knew no fear. Should he ask directly? Was Einar afraid of dying? She said yes, of course she was, but she had no choice. She was born a warrior, and if she didn't fight, she'd die anyway. And that's when the hero understood. He was the same. He didn't have a choice either. Like it or not, if he wanted to survive, he'd have to face his fears. That's what made barbarians incredible. They were raised to overcome weakness from childhood. Now he was one of them. He would survive. He had the strength. He had the knowledge. He'd make it. You have entered the Crystal Cavern, level 1. Opening his eyes, Bjorn couldn't see past the tip of his nose. Where was he? In the past, like Hansu had been an expert in Dungeon and Stone. So he figured combining a barbarian's strong body with his game knowledge would be enough to survive. That's what he thought. But reality turned out different. Here, in total darkness, he couldn't see a thing. Why did everyone else only bring weapons? In the game, crystals stuck out from the walls all over the first level, so torches weren't needed. Unless, was this the abyss of darkness, a super rare zone deep in level 1? No light sources here, but could this really be a starting point? In real life, nothing's impossible. Starting points were randomized, so maybe he just got unlucky. Okay, first check status window, equipment, character info, inventory, skills, journal. Damn, nothing works. Either way, standing still is pointless. What if I go this way? Too slow? Maybe crawling's faster, but I might land in a, goblin trap. God damn it. Stay calm, endure. No loud noises, goblins, level 1 monsters, set traps in their territory. The owner must be nearby, but no one in sight. Lucky? Maybe. But that's dangerous thinking. That's how you die in this game. Always expect the worst. So if there's a trap, there's a goblin. If it noticed the trap was triggered, it's hiding nearby, waiting for the victim to bleed out. Don't make noise. That's the logic of Dungeon and Stone. Assume the worst case scenario. First things first, traps coated in paralyzing poison. Damn barbarians. Couldn't they give decent boots instead of these useless sandals? Well, no point whining. Time to move. Do it fast, before the real fight starts. Made it. But the poison's spreading. Right leg's gone numb. At least now, he couldn't feel fear. Maybe that's better, for the first battle. Still, why the hell is it so quiet here? Come on, just come out already. __. Is no one really here? Maybe I'm going crazy. Yeah, Bjorn was acting like an idiot. But better that than dead. __. Goblin. His mom's a goblin. He knew it. And his dad's a goblin too. Got it? Yep. Brother and sister goblin trash. Sure. And he's a goblin. Okay. The runt. With every second, the hero lost more of his sanity. The blood loss made it feel like being drunk. But just then, behind him, the thing he'd been dreading appeared. A goblin. It moved. Didn't like the talk about its mom. Huh? It showed up from behind. Had been waiting for Bjorn to move away. Still can't see the bastard in this darkness. But the barbarian knew it was there. Better pick up the pace. Like Hansu kept moving, and the goblin didn't let up. Every time Bjorn stopped, the goblin did too. It stalked him, waited for him to bleed out, hoping he'd get scared and die slow. Crafty. Didn't even bother hiding his giggling now. Cackled at full volume. Laughed at Bjorn's goblin mother too. Got it? Alright, new plan. Bjorn lay down, pretending to rest. Okay, goblin, you win. Come on, come get me. Huh? It's throwing rocks to see if Bjorn's still alive. Crafty little __. Smarter than most barbarians. Wait, he's coming. Well, hello there little, huh? Damn, cut off. What now? Wait, his body's moving on its own. He can feel every movement of the goblin. Yeah, in this life, Hansu is stronger. This body is nothing like the one that spent half its life in a hospital. This is a barbarian's body, perfect for close combat. Unbelievable. His body vanished like in a game. And that's currency, usable in Dungeon and Stone. A 9th rank magic crystal, worth a loaf of bread. Seriously, he went through all that for this __. Right. This world has dungeons and monsters. When they die, they leave loot. The nearby town has familiar scenery, and mixed races. This is definitely Dungeon and Stone. And in this world, you can't ever let your guard down. Though maybe, it's already too late. The bleeding is killing him. It couldn't get worse. But he has a plan. Crawling might be humiliating. But at least he's not moving the wounded leg, so there's less pain, and less blood loss. Plus, he won't trigger another trap. Speaking of which, there it is. Screw you damn goblin. You won't get more loot. Like Hansu felt ashamed, but he was alive. Though how long? With the bleeding not stopping, he needed help, fast. If he just keeps moving in one direction, maybe he'll make it out of the darkness. He wondered what happened to that other guy. Did he die or wake up in his real body? If Hansu doesn't hurry, he'll find out soon. His health was under 5%. Now he understood why people believe in gods. He'd always been an atheist, but in desperate moments, you just want something to distract you. But maybe, just maybe, this was the right path. It was getting brighter. Of course, no way the entire first level was pure darkness. He had to reach the light. Maybe he'd find someone there to help. But, who'd help a dying barbarian? He wasn't a pretty girl, or even a nobleman, just a dumb savage, maybe a bit stronger than average.
which wasn't exactly a plus. Am I going insane? Hallucinating. Still, he had to survive at all costs. What? Don't you see yourself? Please, anyone. Obvious fact. He was about to die. Give up. It'll be easier. No, he couldn't give up. There's light. Please, someone. Adventurers. One noticed the bleeding barbarian, and called to his teammate, Drows. Meanwhile, Bjorn's HP dropped below 2%. He even got a bonus to endurance for it. Drows took a closer look, and realized the barbarian was a newbie. Strange. How did he get here before everyone else? Still, what was he staring at? Help me already. Bjorn couldn't even say it out loud anymore. One of the adventurers smiled oddly. Their priestess, Arsena, could have healed him. So the hero was saved. Except not really. She refused. Drows didn't seem surprised. Maybe he knew she'd say no. Couldn't someone just spare a potion? The dark-haired warrior said potions were only for emergencies, even though they had plenty. Drows promised to pay him back after the mission. So the silver-haired guy handed over a potion. Warning. It's gonna hurt. As soon as the liquid touched his leg, Bjorn's HP started recovering. But damn, it burned like hell, like his body was melting. So that's why they don't use potions mid-fight. Still, the hero endured. When his leg fully healed, Drows turned to him. Now, could this newbie explain how he got here before them? Secret path? Shortcut? Drows even offered money for real info, so that's why they helped him, for intel. But Hansu had no idea. He just appeared here when the game started. Seriously? Drows had heard of it. Dimensional instability sometimes drops players into the black zone. Happens maybe once every 100 years. And this group had a mage and a priestess, mid-tier, at least. Yet the hero experienced something they'd never seen. The group got ready to move. They wanted to trace where he came from. They told him not to worry about the potion cost. They helped him basically for free. Watching them leave, Bjorn thought it was a miracle. Time in the dungeon was literally money, and they spent so much of it on him. Still, at least he survived, even if it felt a bit humiliating. While Bjorn thought about what to do next, the adventurers followed his bloody trail. One of them, Pods, ran, smirked. The guy got lucky. Goblin trap victims usually don't live long. The archer said he was lucky to meet merciful Drows. Pods ran hadn't even wanted to hand over a potion, and the priestess didn't heal him, which was fine. Rules of the temple. They argued about it a bit, but then realized something. The blood trail was really long. Maybe they should take a shortcut. Drows, being the guide, remembered the first level's layout perfectly, unlike most guides. So they took a detour, and reached the target point first. Just in time, they activated the portal to level 2, but just before stepping in, the archer noticed something. Shoes nearby. Wasn't that the barbarians? Max, who conjured light, thought so. The blood trail started from there. Then the mage asked how far it was from there to where they found Bjorn. After a quick calculation, the knight gave a shocking answer. 15 kilometers. He crawled that distance in pitch black. Even Pods ran. The most skeptical admitted, that guy is insane. Could he have done the same? Probably not. Then he remembered. Bjorn had reached out his hand earlier, with a magic crystal in it. He'd crawled all that way, and still held onto it, because he had nothing else to offer. Pods ran, took back everything. What was that barbarian's name? Drows, didn't remember. Just a lucky noob like the rest. No, someone like him wouldn't die so easily. He didn't care how hard or painful it was. He wouldn't give himself to death. No, he'd crush every obstacle in his path. And now, the next obstacle, damn goblins, swarming again. But now that he could see clearly, those underscore were nothing. The traps were scattered. The goblins' attack patterns were predictable. The only problem, he was starving. The chieftain had given him some rations, but most were ruined during his crawl. Out of 7 days' worth, only 2 remained. He'd have to ration carefully. Why does this dry bread taste so good? That strange sweetness. And now he was thirsty. Of course, the game had hunger, but not thirst. In real life, total disaster. No water in the dungeon. Then there must be a source somewhere. And yes, he heard water. He saw another human for the first time, aside from the adventurers, but neither of them spoke. There's an unspoken rule, only interact when absolutely necessary. Now, finally, time to count. 41, 42, 43. Not bad. Bjorn felt something crystal clear. Please, please, could Mr. Barbarian just let her go this one time? Honestly, she has a little brother back home, and there's no one to care for him. What nonsense is that? Is this girl completely spineless? Where did she even come from? Most elven girls in the game were cold and distant, and at first glance, she seemed the same. But if Bjorn had known he had a soft heart, he wouldn't have acted so harshly. Maybe it was better to just smile to ease the tension. It's fine, don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. That made her tear up even more. She understood he was a barbarian, but was violence necessary? Bjorn was baffled. What had barbarians done to be feared like monsters? Why did she flinch at every word? Someone must have really ruined their reputation. Fine, let her take the bandages and tend her wound first. They could talk later. She was surprised. Was it Listerine? No, just a bandage. But why did he give it to her? Simple. Does someone need a reason to help a person in need? Though he said that, Bjorn had one. He needed rest. She could patch herself up, and he'd stand guard. Not ideal, but not bad for her either. Wounded, tired, and beautiful. She had it worse than him. Soon she said she'd finished. Quick work. She seemed more relaxed now. Time to exchange names. He was Bjorn, son of Yandel. She was Erwin. So why was she so afraid of him? Because she's an elf, and he's a barbarian. And what does that mean? War. He hadn't heard of any war between elves and barbarians in the game. Erwin quickly clarified. It was long ago. The war ended 10 years ago. She no longer held anything against barbarians, and didn't want to fight him. Bjorn, though, was focused on the 10 years part. How much time had passed in the game world. Still, more important things to worry about. He didn't mean her harm. Maybe they could spend the night together. He was exhausted, and she probably was too. Just one night of cooperation. Erwin hesitated, then remembered. Barbarians value honor. Could Mr. swear on his warrior's honor that he wouldn't harm her? Strange idea, but she also promised to behave. Bjorn didn't care much for honor. But if it worked, fine. He swore on it, and told her to stop calling him Mr. His name was Bjorn. He was only 20. After all, they made their vows. She on her tribe's name, he on his warrior's honor. Time to finally get some rest. He offered to sleep first, so she'd feel safe. He even gave her his blanket and bag for comfort. Erwin fell asleep right away. She must have been truly exhausted. It had only been 3 days here, but it felt like 5. At least pointless thoughts kept him sane. He wondered what was happening in the real world. Was he declared missing? Probably not. No one would come looking. No use thinking about it. Better to focus on surviving. Maybe he should ask Erwin to join him on a hunt later. An elf wouldn't be a bad ally, though they'd have to split the loot. Then again, goblins were starting to show up in packs. Bjorn could handle 3 or 4 himself. So what was better? More rest, or more crystals? His thoughts were interrupted by adventurers entering the area. They noticed the sleeping elf, and the barbarian sitting nearby. Night companions, they asked. Strange match. Bjorn ignored the question, but something felt off. He had a bad feeling. He quickly tried to wake Erwin, but she wouldn't stir. Was she pretending? Yes, she was. Why? Because if she got up, Bjorn might leave her. Ah, that made sense. They'd only agreed to stay one night. Once she opened her eyes, the pact would end. Bjorn asked what the adventurers had wanted. Erwin didn't know, but she recognized the symbols on their clothes. Same as the people who had tried to hurt her before. The Crystal Union. A large organization, not just a small group. Best to stay away from them. They could talk while walking. Erwin perked up. Was the barbarian actually going to help her? Maybe. Tell me everything, and I'll decide, she explained. She'd met them in the labyrinth. They became her night companions, but something felt off. She woke up one night, sensing danger, just for a moment. Later, she found out one of them was a top-ranking figure in a clan, running black market deals on the first level. She tried to escape. They attacked, and that's how she got hurt. Bjorn was shocked. How did they find her again?
They used Link Stone's devices for short-range communication, like magical walkie-talkies, about 300 meters range. So if Bjorn left her now, she'd be caught again. But why were they chasing her so persistently? Not just to silence her, she'd stabbed their boss in a certain sensitive place, severed it. Bjorn almost choked. She was the reason? No wonder they were hunting her. Suddenly Erwin went tense. Someone was following them. 150 meters behind. She could feel it. Elf instinct? Bjorn said they should move faster. Erwin, wounded but determined, nodded. She could push herself harder. She was brave. But they couldn't shake the pursuers. The girl didn't change. Crap. They seemed to speed up, but it didn't help. Their pursuers had likely already warned the others. It was getting dangerous. They'd have to eliminate them. Yeah. If Kansu were their target, he would have decided so already, but he wasn't. And now, the guy stood at a crossroads. He needed to think things through. There was no turning back. What are the risks? What are the advantages? More information was needed. What was Erwin best at? What were her strengths? She's good at cleaning and laundry, but cooking, so. Wait, what the hell? He meant combat skills. Combat, right? She's good with a bow, also knows spirit magic, fire attribute. Got it. An ideal elven archer, and with the rarest attribute too. Had she ever killed someone? No. But she could if needed. Alright then. After thinking it through, Erwin Keck didn't want to form a permanent alliance before leaving the dungeon. Of course the loot split would be 9-1 in Bjorn's favor, no objections accepted. The girl didn't hesitate. She agreed. Great. What's the distance now? Already 100 meters. Damn. They're catching up even at full speed. No point in running. Time to switch plans. Erwin, summon a spirit. Now. Following the order, they hid in the darkness together. The hero didn't think he'd willingly return into the dark. Meanwhile, the pursuers drew near. Bjorn asked the elf girl to cancel the summon, and noticed someone coming around the corner. Strange. He shouldn't be able to see anything, but still entered the darkness, and stopped not far from them. Looks like they have a way to track targets. Well then, time's up. Erwin, fire. Though she had never killed before, she drew her bow confidently, and released without hesitation. The arrow struck the pursuer straight in the head. He dropped. Good job. She'd have been in danger if she'd hesitated. Naturally, they had to search the body before leaving. Just like Erwin said before, these people used link stones, and now, someone on the other end was frantically trying to reach someone named Certain. Something must have happened. Certain wasn't responding. He was chasing that bitch and the barbarian. To anyone hearing this message, regroup in the goblin zone. Got it. So that adventurer's name was Certain. It'd be nice to loot something useful from him. Unfortunately, he didn't have anything major, just some random stuff. A large pouch of crystals, 2 daggers, 1 potion with a belt, and his leather top and bottom. Still, the clothes were much better than what Erwin was wearing before. Thanks to the outfit upgrade, even her aura felt more refined. Now that they were settled, could she explain how to use the link stone? There should be a button, and there was. Pressing it, they immediately heard. Certain, who was chasing the elf bitch, is no longer responding. Last seen in the goblin zone. She's with a barbarian carrying a hammer and shield. Bounty. 10,000 gold. Erwin was horrified by the amount, but Bjorn told her not to worry. She should summon a spirit. They'd move along the edge of darkness, straight to the portal on the 2nd floor. What? You're serious about going to the 2nd floor? Yes. And stop calling me mister. My name's Bjorn. Well, let the barbarian think it through. The 1st and 2nd floors are very different. The hero knew that. It'd be fine if they didn't stray far from the entrance. And besides, they made a good pair. While the girl mumbled shyly about that last comment, overthinking things, Hansu recalled, a melee tank and a long-range archer really do make a great combo. Since they're now officially a team, the 1st floor would be too easy. Still, the girl was uncertain. This was their first time in the dungeon. Wasn't it reckless to go straight to the 2nd floor, like jumping into an orc den just to escape goblins? But she didn't get to finish that thought, because through the stone came the next message. Haven't found them yet. If you catch that elf bitch, you can do whatever you want with her, besides the 10,000 gold. You got me curious. If she resists, can I cut off a hand or leg? Yeah, go ahead. Just don't damage the important organs. I get it. After hearing that, the girl had no more arguments against the 2nd floor. And good thing too. Hansu hated convincing people. All in all, the guy stood to gain 2 things from this. The satisfaction of doing a good deed, and getting rid of trash while gaining a reliable ally with loot. No reason not to help. So they set off. But does Mr. know the way to the 2nd floor? Bjorn answered honestly. He didn't know the exact path, but if they went north, they'd get there. The levels were built in such a way that if you go straight through the dark zone, you eventually reach the portal. Darkness always leads upward. Suddenly, Erwin stopped. There's a goblin trap over there. Huh? After all this walking, they'd only seen one. What kind of unlucky moron steps on one the second he enters the dungeon? Maybe in well-lit areas, goblins lay fewer traps. God, how unlucky could he be? Anyway, nothing to worry about. Erwin would deal with it easily. Just don't waste spirit energy. Of course, no problem. Still, Bjorn immediately sensed she wanted to show off her skills. Now she was blushing. And as soon as she approached the trap, an ambush, several goblins jumped her. But even without magic, she held her own. 1 arrow each. Threat neutralized. So Mr. Barbarian, how was that? Cool. Seriously cool. She really was impressive. Turned out way more capable than he expected. Truly skilled. But she wasn't done. As agreed, she handed over the magic crystals. 9-1. Her little brother had begged her to buy him something. If she kept up her efforts, she'd get something too, right? Why'd she say that like she was accusing him of being greedy? Whatever. Let her work hard then. They moved on, but after barely a few steps, the frequency announced, the bounty on Erwin had been raised to 20,000, dead or alive. Still, Bjorn assured her no one would find them in the dark. Besides, those degenerates had no real team spirit. Some went off hunting wolves. Others couldn't care less about Erwin. So don't stress. Still, something felt off. Everything was going too smoothly. And just like that, monsters, ghouls, where from? He thought they were supposed to spawn in the south. Maybe they'd wandered too far while running. Either way, they'd fight together. Dungeon leveling in Dungeon and Stone was strange. You only got XP for the first kill of each monster type, so variety mattered. Ghouls, here, big luck. The plan, Bjorn would handle the close ones. Erwin would snipe the distant ones. If these ghouls were like the game, they wouldn't attack unless you got close. And yes, they matched. Where are you rushing off to? Down. Ghouls were strong, faster than goblins, but still rank 9 monsters. Predictable, and with a reliable partner, easy. Victory earned them XP. Bjorn leveled up once. After the fight, they continued north. On the 3rd day, they reached their goal. Erwin spotted something blood, not goblin, and a piece of bread. The trail led right where they were heading. It looked familiar, too familiar. Wait, was that his blood? It was. So the hero had spawned right near the 2nd floor portal. What kind of joke was that? It had been only 10 meters away, and he went the wrong direction. Erwin, teary-eyed, begged for forgiveness. Why was the barbarian yelling? If she did something wrong, just say so. The hero tried to calm her down. It wasn't her fault. Don't worry. Then what was it? Oh, got it. A nightmare. Judging by the shoes, someone important to him had died here. Erwin was sure that person was in a better place now. What was she imagining again? Bjorn didn't expect understanding. Whatever. Ready to go in. Of course. She was scared, but with a companion like him, she'd be fine. Great. Bjorn wasn't planning to die easily either. Landing hard on his back in the goblin forest of the 2nd floor, he muttered, what the underscore. Interesting. Wasn't it? Of course. What's it like to walk through a portal? The sensations were roughly like being chewed up and spat out by a giant frog. Erwin, however, landed much more gracefully. Vern found himself envying her agility. Clearly, barbarians are lacking in that department. Anyway, time to first check out the surrounding area. It looks like the northern goblin forest zone of the 2nd floor. Thanks to the portal, they can return to the 1st floor at any moment. Within a 50-meter radius, no presence is felt. The starlight in the sky is so-so, but there's no point in waiting for it to get brighter. After all, this is a labyrinth. Erwin, looking around, wondered if they really ended up on the 2nd floor. The elf girl had never heard of a forest like this being here. The main character guessed maybe she had been told about a different area. On this 2nd floor, there are 4 portals on the 1st level. Each leads to different zones. North, for example, is the goblin forest. East is the beast lair. West is the land of the undead. And south, the dark rocky mountains. Right, Erwin remembered. And any of these zones leads to the 3rd floor. Still, what should they do? The barbarian, in turn, asked a counter question. She does know how to return from the labyrinth to the city, right? Yeah, they'll just be ejected once the labyrinth closes. Right, exactly. On the 1st floor,
That happens after 168 hours. On the second, after 240. The Crystal Union is unlikely to show up here. They're not exactly team players, so our duo will remain on the second floor for another 168 hours, and once that time is up, they'll descend to the first floor. But there's no point in just sitting around by the portal all that time doing nothing. They should scout the area a bit. The elf's presence in the team significantly simplified life for the guy. The girl immediately detected hidden traps and plotted optimal routes. By the way, there's another trap under the leaves over there. Well, what do you say? Bjorn silently admitted. She's an irreplaceable member of the party. You can rely on her, but no need to overpraise. Sure, she throws stones well. From now on, she'll always be responsible for finding traps. No need to celebrate minor successes. The barbarian already sees her as an experienced adventurer, and such praise made Erwin very happy, but she immediately became wary. It was kind of strange. There were traps, yet no goblins around. For the main character, it was all obvious. The presence of a trap on the second floor doesn't mean anyone's guarding it. It's more a feature of the zone than something specific. In the game, this area was also called the Goblin Forest, and aside from camouflage traps, goblins appear here in groups of slightly over 10. Sometimes among them are mutants, archers, or warriors. The farther from the portal, the more of them there are. Not to mention higher level monsters, but for them, it didn't matter. They would remain near the portal. The plan was simple. First, deal with the surrounding traps, then gradually expand the explored area. This way, they wouldn't be afraid to run back to the portal in case of danger. They could return to the first floor at any time. With that settled, the heroes began clearing the nearby territory. Everything was going smoothly, until Erwin sensed a threat. A group of goblins nearby. Hard to say for sure, but definitely more than 10. About 50 meters away. They don't seem to have noticed them yet. What to do? Bjorn gave an unambiguous answer. Fight. Same plan as with the ghouls. Watching Erwin silently walk through the grass, the guy couldn't help but be amazed. It had to be some kind of elven ability. Taking up position, the girl opened fire, and the main character charged head-on. Telling Erwin to stay back, he engaged in fierce combat with the goblins. The second floor was vastly different from the first. Enemies here were 3 times as numerous. Even if they were goblins, they were still dangerous. Mutants appeared too. You'd think Bjorn, a former Lycansu, would be scared, but he didn't feel fear at all. On the contrary, the warrior's heart he had received beat in ecstasy, cutting down enemies one after another. The guy felt invincible, but maybe he was too confident. He narrowly avoided an attack. If he'd reacted a fraction of a second later, he'd have lost his head. No breathing room at all. These bastards, not just ordinary goblins, even more than 5 cause trouble. Injuries are inevitable, if he were alone. But with Erwin, who had already taken up position, the outcome was predetermined. Time to wrap this up. Alright bastards, breathe your last. And sure enough, there were no issues. Among the defeated goblins was a goblin warrior, which earned the hero 1 unit of experience. After defeating their first goblin group, Bjorn received 11 magic crystals, a much greater reward, considering that on the first floor, an entire day's work barely yielded around 40. He'd like to take the armor and weapons, but they vanished along with the goblins. Well, Erwin would get 2 crystals, since the stones dropped from goblin warriors are more valuable. He'd keep those for himself, and give her more of the regular ones. Alright, time to move on. After some time, the duo moved about 3 kilometers from the portal, and goblins started appearing every 5 minutes. This time, they even had an archer. Moreover, he vanished. Careful, it's invisibility magic. Damn, that'll make the archer harder to deal with. But no matter, he and Erwin wouldn't lose. The main thing was to stay alert and dodge goblin arrows. Then follow the usual tactics. Goblin archer defeated. Reward +1 experience. After taking out another batch of monsters, the hero finally suggested they rest, and the girl was very happy to hear that. She was practically collapsing. How long had they been fighting anyway? About 15 hours, Bjorn replied, offering the girl to take the first shift of sleep. Naturally, he'd give her the backpack with the blanket, and the girl agreed without hesitation, and lay down peacefully. But wasn't she a bit too relaxed? She must have been completely exhausted. Must feel safe. In total, 15 hours of hunting earned them more than they could even dream of on the first floor. But the farther they went, the more other adventurers they'd encounter. These groups didn't just consist of more than 3 people. They often had members of different races too. Just looking at them was already tense. You'd wonder what if they attack. Adventurers are much more dangerous than goblins, especially now that the guy has someone to worry about. The biggest damn problem was that she was so beautiful. The Lycansu used to drool over her, and the girl seemed to have perked up her ears. She really was beautiful. And seriously, why wasn't she asleep? She was just snoring a moment ago. Hey, go to sleep already. What's wrong with her? Elves aren't supposed to act like this. So in their battles with goblins, rest breaks, and encounters with adventurers, several days passed, and the 7th arrived. The time was 21:13, 2.5 hours, until the first floor closed. Time to get out of the labyrinth. Erwin was very tired, so it was best to set off now to arrive earlier. But the girl spotted another trap, which could mean only one thing. A new goblin group had respawned. What a pain. Still, of course, they would fight. After so many battles, the main character had become a master at such combat. While Erwin dealt with the archers, he fought the enemy warriors. Over this time, the elf girl had grown a lot and adapted. She knew exactly who to shoot and when. Even though she said there were 2 archers, not a single arrow came his way. The time it took to kill goblins had significantly decreased. Excellent work, Erwin. By the way, what's that on the goblin? The girl thought it looked like something cool, and Bjorn immediately realized what it was. An essence. A goblin archer's essence. Damn, why here? And why this one? The essence is part of the skill system of the dungeon. The adventurers got even more pissed off. Why the hell did they think the essence belonged to them anyway? Bjornji had expected that he and Erwin would eventually run into people like this. These bastards rushed over the moment they spotted the essence, but too late. Erwin had already absorbed it. Well then, if they wanted a fight, bring it on. They were outnumbered, so they had to be bolder. People underestimated them, which meant they'd be less cautious. Come on then. He was ready to fight right now. 2 options, attack or run away. If they chickened out, he gave them 2 seconds to think. In the end, the adventurers decided not to engage, and ran toward the portal. Even if they retreated, there was still a chance they'd meet again. No time to relax. Judging by everything, those guys had also planned to escape when the first floor closed. No wonder they were hanging out near the exit. Suddenly, Erwin reported, "Group of goblins ahead, about 50 meters, can't go around them. They're running straight at us." Leto grew wary. Usually goblins didn't find them first, thanks to the elf girl's detection skills. So what happened this time? The answer came fast. When they slowed down to change escape direction, the elf barely dodged an enemy arrow, only thanks to Bjorn's reflexes. He immediately understood. That shot wasn't from a goblin. It was those same guys. They lured the goblins here, and now waited in ambush from the other side, trying to wear them down. No way. They were going to fight. What about Erwin? She could use skills, but the elf didn't understand what skills he was talking about. Essence power, of course. Each one had its own specialization. Erwin had absorbed the essence of a goblin archer, an in-game that increased stat points. Plus it gave passive and active abilities. Passive poisoned arrows, that added poison damage to each shot. Active thief stealth, a cloaking skill. But the girl didn't even know how to use them. However, Bjorn told her she was already using them. Even he was surprised. How? The skill activated just by willing it. No incantations or anything. For now, she should hold on to the backpack. The main character would handle the goblins. Iron should find the crossbowman. The girl got scared. Wasn't it too dangerous for him to go alone? Maybe, but there was no time. The elf should stay hidden and wait for the signal. After that, she'd finish off the crossbowman. Just be careful. She'd only get 1 shot. But what signal? Where did he run off to? He didn't even show what it would be. But Bjorn was already out of earshot. After running a decent distance and spotting the enemy, the main character decided to begin. Goblins on the left, and those guys hadn't shown up after the arrow. That meant they'd appear after he took out the goblins. There were more than 10 of them, 2 of which were warriors. If no arrows came his way, then there wasn't an archer. Ah damn, there was one after all. He'd have to watch out for arrows too. Damn, he pulled them out, and the goblins weren't planning to back down. It was tough without Erwin's help. The wounds were becoming a real threat. and then 2 arrows at once, one from a goblin, and one from the crossbowman. Neither could be blocked. He had to defend against the crossbow at least. Damn it. The goblin's arrow hit him right in the elbow, and it was poisoned. He couldn't move his hand, so now he had to choose between shield and hammer. The choice was obvious. The shield was for real threats. Those guys weren't goblins. The hammer would make it easier to crush the small fry, but it couldn't deflect crossbow bolts. And how many were there really? Lucky they were retreating, but chasing them was pointless. Better to take a quick rest. And as soon as he thought that, the real culprits appeared. The adventurers were surprised how the barbarian took out all the goblins by himself. Simply astonishing. Oh, what a surprise meeting. Lee knew it. It really was them. But the crossbowman wasn't with them. And the adventurers started asking questions. Where was that elf underscore? But Bjorn wasn't going to answer. He'd already told them last time. Everyone's quick to talk. Let's talk with fists. Classic barbarian. The brute was full of energy even after a battle with a goblin horde. But he did have a few too many wounds. If he told them where the elf was, maybe they'd let him go. Let me go? Bjorn grinned. What, did they take him for a complete idiot? What's so funny? They called him a psycho. Fine. They'd ask questions after beating the crap out of this jerk. Everyone stay alert. Better imagine they were facing a giant monster, not just some barbarian. Forward. Taking up a defensive stance, the hero realized the moment had come. Yes, his left arm barely moved, and who knew if Erwin had found the crossbowman. But time to give the signal. A gesture so universal it worked in any world. Yes, that one. How do you like that signal? As expected, they were momentarily stunned. That thief's completely nuts. But Erwin should understand it, right? Either way, there was no choice. Had to trust her. With that, the hero rushed into battle, attacking the leader, who, feeling the true barbarian strength of Bjorn, called for backup from his comrade Elios, who helped him. But Bjorn couldn't retreat. He had to distract them somehow to give Erwin an opening. She had taken out the crossbowman, right? And that arrow, whose was it? The crossbowman's or Erwin's? Judging by the hit, definitely Erwin's. The tank Tom quickly ordered the others to focus on the barbarian. He'd handle the archer, and that was really inconvenient. That underscore was good at shielding his allies from ranged attacks. Bjorn couldn't deal with this alone. He'd have to sacrifice something. His left arm was useless anyway. Trading it for the redhead was worth it. But after taking out the leader, Bjorn surprisingly also dodged an old man's attack. But he had no time to rest. An arrow flew at him, barely blocked by the shield bearer. This time, though, the tank got a nasty surprise. Nice one, Erwin. You can't deflect everything. That's right. Erwin wasn't just any apprentice. She was a spirit user. Meanwhile, Lee the leader recovered from a previous hit, and realized they were in serious trouble. While they were busy here, he'd go deal with that bitch. Damn, she was fast. But whatever, Erwin would handle him. Lee had bigger problems. Enough fooling around. Bjorn's shield bash didn't hit the old man, but it struck the one behind him. That was it. Now the old man was alone, but he was still strong. Why the hell did he decide to join these rejects? No matter, it was the biggest mistake of his life. Enough of this dancing around. Damn, he's trying to stall until the redhead returns, but it's pointless. That's it, old man. Time to take your meds. Pow, he gets smashed. Satisfied now, and this isn't even the end. Bjorn would gnaw victory out with his teeth if he had to. That was the end of the fight, and it looked like not only had he succeeded, but so had Erwin. When the battle noises faded, the girl returned, and was shocked at the hero's condition. He urgently needed a potion, though the idea didn't exactly thrill him. Drinking that crap, remembering what happened the first time, was horrifying. But the elf insisted. The effect would be better if taken.